Have you ever stopped to really think about the connection between what's on your plate and what's going on in your head? And I don't just mean for energy, but on a way deeper level. Well, today we're going to dive into a perspective that suggests what you eat literally builds who you are, from your individual cells all the way up to your consciousness.
So let's just kick things off with a pretty wild idea. Try to forget, just for a moment, seeing yourself as one single solid thing. Instead, what if you imagined your body as a vast, teeming universe, populated by countless individual living beings? You kind of have to get your head around this to see where we're going next.
All right, so how do we even begin to understand that? Well, we've got to zoom way, way in. We're going right down to the fundamental building blocks of our physical selves.
Think about it this way. You're not a monolith. You're more like a huge, bustling community, a massive, dynamic collective of countless individual cells. The source material actually has names for these: protozoic and metazoic cells, which are basically the simple and complex life forms that all have to work together in this incredibly complex society that we call a body.
And this cellular society, it's in a constant state of change. Why? Because the general lifespan of any one of your cells is only about 21 days. Just let that sink in for a second. Every 3 weeks, this massive process of renewal, of death and rebirth is happening inside of you, right now.
And here's a brilliant way to make this real, something we've all experienced. You know when you rub your skin and that sort of grayish stuff comes off? We usually just think, oh, it's dirt. But from this viewpoint, a lot of that is actually the physical proof of this renewal process, an accumulation of hundreds of your own dead cells, making way for the new ones.
Okay, so we're basically a walking, talking, constantly regenerating city of cells. Got it. But this is where the idea takes another fascinating leap. This city, this entire universe inside you, it's said to have a mind of its own.
And that's the next key idea. These cells aren't just mindless biological robots. The philosophy here is that every single cell that makes you who you are actually has its own individual mind, its own little flicker of consciousness.
So what does that make our mind, the one we experience as me? Well, it's defined here as the collective mind. It's the sum total, the collective hum of all those trillions of tiny cellular minds working together. So your sense of self isn't some single point of light. It's more like a vast galaxy of awareness.
Okay, so if we're a universe of mindful cells, the next logical question is, how do we influence this inner world? And the answer, it turns out, is incredibly direct. It all comes down to the food we eat. It boils down to this really simple logical chain of events. 1, you eat something. 2, your body uses that food as the literal building blocks to create new cells to replace the old ones. And 3, and this is the kicker, because these new cells have their own minds, their nature directly shapes the nature of your collective mind.
Let's just pause on that for a moment, because it's a huge idea. This isn't just about calories or vitamins in the way we usually think about it. This is saying the essential quality, the very vibe of your food, has a direct one-to-one effect on your cells, and boom, right on through to your mental and psychological state.
So, if the nature of food is the most important thing, how do we even begin to classify it? Well, this philosophy lays out a really clear system with 3 main categories based on how they affect our cellular and mental worlds: sentient, mutative, and static. So let's take a look. On one side, we have sentient foods, things like rice, fruit, and milk. These are said to create cells that really promote mental well-being. Then, way over on the other end, you've got static foods, things like onions, garlic, and meats. These are seen as, well, not so great for the mind. And right in the middle, mutative foods. Now, the source material doesn't list a ton of examples here, but it says they're generally not harmful and they're good for physical energy. Let's dig a little deeper into that static category, because you're going to recognize a lot of things here. We're talking about onion and garlic, wine, any food that's stale or spoiled, and the meat from large animals like cows, plus fish and eggs. The whole idea with this group is that these foods are believed to create a kind of dullness, a static interference in your mind. And it gets even more detailed than that. It's not just about what the food is, but its intrinsic state. For instance, milk is usually considered sentient, right? But the milk from a cow that has just given birth, that's actually classified as static. It's a great reminder that the hidden quality and the origin of our food is considered just as important, if not more so. So you can probably see where this is all going.
This framework isn't just about feeling good or bad day to day. It connects our dinner plate to something much, much bigger, suggesting that our food choices have profound spiritual consequences.
It really lays out two completely different paths. On one hand, you eat static food, you build static cells, and that creates a heavy static feeling in your mind. But on the other hand, you eat sentient food, you build sentient cells, and that helps you find what's called psychic equilibrium, basically a clear, balanced mind that's perfect for deeper spiritual work.
And get this internal state is believed to have a real visible effect. You know the idea of an aura, that light around a person? Well, from this perspective, it's not some mystical thing. It's presented as a biological reality. It's simply the combined glow, the collective light of every single one of your cells.
So how do you get that glow? Simple. It comes right back to what you eat. When you fill your diet with sentient food, the new cells your body is constantly making will be sentient in their nature too.
And from there, the effect is totally natural. These sentient cells just emanate their own subtle light. And when you have billions of them doing it all at once, you get that visible aura. This is actually presented as the explanation for why highly evolved people are so often shown in art with a halo or a radiant glow around them.
You know, this entire complex idea can be boiled down into one beautiful, powerful phrase from the source text, Ahar Shadao Sattvashuddhi. And what it means is simply, a sentient diet produces a sentient body. That's it. That's the whole philosophy in a nutshell. And that's really what we're left with. If you look at it this way, every single meal isn't just about consumption. It's a fundamental act of self-creation. So the question isn't just what's for dinner. The real question is, if every bite is rebuilding you cell by mindful cell, who are you choosing to become?